Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nemeka Onyeka Odereri. I want to discuss briefly what I term the heart of David and the integrity of Daniel. Two Bible characters or three Bible characters that I so much respect and I so much appreciate are Joseph, David, and Daniel. King David. Remember, God says, "Oh, I'm picking for myself a king after my own heart." When we say David is a man after God's own heart, it doesn't mean that God will do unrighteous things like David did. It simply means, look at David. David was a man who understood what love is. David was a man who could lay his life to protect those he truly appreciates and loved. David is one man who has such a large heart to forgive even those who sought to destroy him. What of Daniel? Daniel was such an excellent young man that as the leader of the four, they proposed in their heart. Remember, Nebuchadnezzar captured, look at the book of Daniel. Nebuchadnezzar captured and destroyed Jerusalem and took into captivity the strong, the intelligent, the brightest, and left the dregs in the city of Jerusalem and took them into captivity. While they were in Babylon, hundreds of thousands of them. These four, Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, chose and decided that between themselves that they're not going to be part of any rubbish in the system. And of course, they went to the citadel, the University of Babylon, and they came out 10 times smarter and better than the rest of the crowd. They had giftings, they were knowledgeable, they were excellent, they were diligent, they were very creative. Of course, Nebuchadnezzar being a wise king, not like the political bandits that we have in Nigeria, who are always looking for leg-spittling, genuflecting, cowards, incompetent drivers to work with. Nebuchadnezzar, despite the fact that he knew that these guys were captured slaves, decided to elevate them and made Daniel the chief of the 120 princes and made Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego chief of chiefs. So they ruled in the land, of course. Bible said that the enemies, those who hated them, sought for occasion to accuse them. They could not find any reason to accuse them. What of that? David? David, before he became king, was a ruddy young boy, very handsome. And in fact, to show you how David was regarded in his family, David was not regarded at all. Because there was a time when God, after Saul fell out and God wanted to make a king, God chose from the house of Jesse and told Samuel the prophet, go to the house of Jesse, I'm going to pick one of his sons as king. Jesse had 8 sons. He had enough notice for him to invite all his children for them to prepare and everything. It's like somebody telling me, President Donald Trump is coming to my house in Ikoyi here, and I had 2 weeks notice, and they said, okay, gather your children, and maybe I forgot one of my children. That's sacrilegious, but that was what Jesse did. That was Jesse. David was so scantily regarded that his father did not even remember him. But let me tell you something about David. Why David? David, of course, David will have known. If you're in a family or in a garden or a place where people don't like you, or where they have scant regard for who you are, you know. Nobody needs to tell you, even their body language, the way they talk to you and everything. But the Bible said that while David was at the backside of the desert, that was where he honed his slinging skills. He knew they didn't like him, but he wasn't looking at what they are feeling or their thoughts towards him. He had the heart of God. He was willing to do everything to protect that which was kept under his care. David was accountable. David was responsible. David was very transparent. Bible says while he was there at the backside of the desert, a lion came to carry the few sheep that was placed under his care. Now, let me tell you something. The majority of us will take off. But he was a young 17-year-old boy. Why will I lay down my life for a lion to carry the sheep of people, for the lion to eat me up rather than the sheep or the people that hate me? The Bible says David stood in the gap and slew the lion. When the bear came to do the same thing, David slew the bear. God saw the responsibility, the accountability, the transparency, the ability, the capacity of David to lay his life for those who hated him. And God said to himself, this time around, Israel chose Saul. They chose according to other nations because they wanted somebody who is not less than without Gobi. But God said, no, this time I'm going to choose a man who understands the life, what leadership is, what it means to serve. And that was how David was picked. Of course, his father did not bring him. Samuel, the prophet who heard from God when he was 5, still was not even able to identify. He nearly made a mistake because he saw others with big chests and they tall, big height, and he wanted to pick. God told him, no, I don't choose the way men choose. I look at the heart. And he said he would not sit down until David came and he was anointed king. Of course, David made a mistake, when he went and slept with Uriah's wife. And of course, the worst mistake was not that he slept with Uriah's wife. Uriah was a very loyal servant to him. Uriah was so loyal that Uriah came back and didn't want to touch his wife just because he was fighting a war for his king. And David planned for Uriah to be killed. They sent him to the war front and withdrew the army. And God was so angry with David. And God sent the prophet Nathan to David. Of course, look at what happened. When Nathan, the difference between Saul and David was, when Saul sinned and Samuel came to Saul, Saul didn't even care about his sins. He only wanted the adulation of men, vaunting ambition. He wanted men to see him that he is still the king. And rather than repent and show contrite of spirit, he wanted Samuel to follow him to the mountain, despite the fact that he disobeyed God. When Samuel refused, he tore Samuel's garment. And Samuel told him, the throne has been taken from you. But David, look at David, oh God. When Nathan came to David and told David the whole thing, David said that David was willing to die. David even asked God to kill him. He said, God, strike me dead. And God said, I won't strike you dead. I know you're a very meek man. I know you. Even God told him that I gave you, put you in the kingship of Israel. I gave you the wife of your master. If you wanted to marry, if you wanted all the women in Israel, God said, I will give you. But why will you kill Uriah, a loyal servant? Of course, David suffered the consequences. He suffered all his life for that single mistake. But Daniel, very excellent guy, very clear. So, it's the same thing. In whatever assignment you are given, don't look at anybody's face. Do it excellently. Let me tell you, there are 3 qualities that are lacking in the average Nigerian. Being responsible, being accountable, and being transparent. See, accountability, responsibility simply means, doesn't mean that you cannot make mistake. Responsibility simply means, even if you make mistake, own it. Don't pass the buck. David, unlike Saul, did not pass the buck. He owned his shit. And he told God, kill me. He was willing to die for his errors. He even sentenced himself to death. And let me tell you, even when the consequence of his evil, the sin he committed, started coming upon him, he bore the shame. There was even a time when one drunkard was abusing him. Joab, one of his captains, wanted to go and cut off the guy's neck. David refused. That he deserved the shame because he took responsibility. That is King David. David, despite the fact that he was the one who removed shame from Saul. When Saul saw that he was the one who even played the jitter to remove demons pursuing Saul. Yes, Saul wanted to kill him. Many times Saul sought his life. The only time David had opportunity, he didn't even kill Saul. He only cut the cloth of Saul to show Saul that he had ability to kill, but he did not kill him. Yet he was smote in the spirit for cutting the cloth of Saul to show Saul that he never meant any harm against Saul. And David operated at the time when the law was an eye for an eye. He would have comfortably killed Saul and he would be breaking the commandment. But yet David lived ahead of his time. He understood what forgiveness is. He forgave Saul, despite the fact that Saul sought his life. Yet even after Saul had long gone, dead and gone, even after his very close friend Jonathan had long died and gone, yet David sought for a person in the house of Saul that survived Mephibosheth to bring him to the table. That was how accommodating and forgiving David was. Many of us will carry the Bible, but we don't even practice. We don't even know what's in the scriptures we study. See, the truth is, there's no perfect man out there. None. But every man is expected to be. The difference between us and those in the world, they take responsibility. When somebody messes up, he resigns. He walks away. One single error, they walk away. But us, we will be committing it, and we will be just be clinging to that office. Of course, we will have 1 million zombies that will justify our incompetencies, our irresponsibilities, and everything. May God help us to have the heart of David, the kindness of David, the sacrificial lives of David, and the diligence and excellence of Joseph, Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Thank you for granting me audience.